Okay, if you've spent any time on Instagram, you have heard all the conflicting advice. Post on Tuesday at noon, or maybe Friday at 5 p.m., or, I don't know, only during a full moon. It's confusing, right? Well, in this explainer, we are going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to use a data-driven strategy to find the real best time for you to post. You know the feeling? You spend hours crafting the absolute perfect post. The visuals are stunning, the caption is brilliant, you hit publish, and then nothing. Just crickets. It is so frustrating, and honestly, it's the exact problem we're going to tackle today. Now, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Timing is not a magic bullet. It is not going to save bad content. But for great content, oh, that's a different story. Timing is the amplifier. It's what turns a whisper into a shout, making sure your hard work actually gets seen by the right people at the absolute perfect moment. So here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into why timing still matters so much. Then, we'll look at the universal best times to post. After that, we'll talk about when things get a little complicated. Then, the most important part, finding your personal peak time. And finally, we'll look beyond the clock at the bigger picture. All right, first up, let's really get into the why behind the when. And honestly, it all comes down to one thing, the Instagram algorithm. So the algorithm is basically looking at four main signals. Engagement shows that your content is valuable. Your relationship with followers, well, that builds loyalty. And relevance matches your content to people's interests. But for what we're talking about today, the absolute key factor is recency. Newer posts get priority in the feed, which is exactly why posting when your audience is actually online is such a game changer. Okay, so now that we know the why, let's finally get to the when. Think of this next part as your starting map. It's based on engagement data from literally millions of posts, so it's a fantastic place to begin. What's interesting is that the data doesn't just point to one single magic hour. Instead, what we see are several distinct windows of super high user activity. This gives you multiple opportunities every single day to connect with your audience when they're most likely to engage. So during the week, we see 3 of these key windows pop up. There's the early morning commute, roughly 6 to 9 a.m., when people are scrolling on their way to work. Then you've got the midday lunch break between about 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. And finally, the evening wind down, after 6 p.m. when everyone's relaxing. Each one is a prime opportunity. Now, weekends, they're a whole different animal. Instead of those focused bursts of activity you get on a weekday, you see more leisurely, spread out scrolling. And what this often means is that overall engagement can be a little bit lower, so your timing has to be even more strategic. Still wondering if making these changes is actually worth the effort? Well, get this. One brand saw a 92% increase in engagement just by shifting its post times to line up with its audience. We're not talking about a minor tweak here. This is a massive opportunity. Okay, so we've got the general map. Now it's time to add in some layers of complexity, because this is where that whole one-size-fits-all approach really starts to fall apart. The truth is, there is no single best time to post that works for every single person. Of course not. The best schedule for, say, a fitness brand is going to be totally different from a B2B tech company. Your specific niche and the kind of content you create are huge, huge variables. For example, it just makes sense, right? Fitness content often crushes it in the early mornings and evenings. Food content naturally peaks around mealtimes. And retail brands, they often see a big spike during those midday work breaks. It all comes down to understanding when your audience is most likely to be thinking about what you offer. The format of your content also plays a massive role. You've probably noticed this, but the data consistently shows that Reels get the most reach. Why? Because Instagram is actively prioritizing them. So just think, posting a Reel during one of those peak windows could give you the biggest possible boost. So let's get personal. It's time to move from that general map we talked about to a personal compass, one that helps you find your own unique best times to post. This is the most important part. You know, as social media expert Caitlin Rhodes puts it, it's all about your audience's habits. The best global data in the world doesn't matter one bit if it doesn't match your specific followers. So it's time to stop guessing and start looking at your own actual data. And thankfully, Instagram makes this super easy. It's just 3 simple steps if you have a business or creator account. Go to your professional dashboard, tap on total followers, and then just scroll down. Right there, you'll find a chart showing your audience's most active times. This is your personal goldmine of data. But finding this data, that's just step 1. Now you use it to form a hypothesis, something like, okay, it looks like Wednesdays at 7 p.m. might be my best slot. Then you test it for a couple of weeks, you measure the results, and you refine your schedule based on what you learn. It's a continuous cycle of improvement. So as we start to wrap up, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Because optimizing your schedule is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's not the end goal. Here's the bottom line. The most important thing to remember: great timing gets your message seen, but great content is the message. You can think of it this way. Timing opens the door, but your content has to be compelling enough for people to actually want to walk through it. So, to make sure your great content really succeeds, you need to pair your smart timing strategy with these actions. Engage with comments right after you post to boost that initial signal to the algorithm. Use relevant hashtags to expand your reach. And always, always be analyzing your own data to see what's truly resonating with your audience. So, I will leave you with this one final thought. Are you just creating content to fill a time slot? Or are you using your schedule strategically to give your best content the massive launchpad it truly deserves? The answer to that question is going to make all the difference.